Well, it's back. The '08 Dodge Caravan. It made it exactly 180 miles before it had another problem. Sun glare is awful. So what we have is they went to go drive around. They ran that tank of gas about down to half. They went to go get fuel, shut it off, went to go restart it, and it started missing. And here's we have a P0202 number 2 fuel injector circuit open. If you remember in the last video, I talked about how I was afraid that this was going to be an ongoing problem with this van, because that shop they took it to when they initially had problems, they were going through and they were just poking, you know, wires and leaving them open, not repairing the insulation, which rarely is there ever a situation where you have to poke a wire when you can't get to a connector. So I guess what we're going to be doing is going out here and finding the number 2 injector on our wiring diagram and see what we can find, see what we got going on. It's intermittent. I drove it all the way back. It's an hour and 15 minutes, and it of course ran and drove fine. So we have another intermittent problem, my favorite. All right, so the PCM monitors the injectors, and it can tell whether it's firing or not based on either a voltage drop or an amperage draw or whatever the case, how much the ground is taking. Now in most cases, what you'll find is your injectors each have an individual line, an individual wire that controls them on multiport. The sequential multiport, it will fire each injector independently from each other. Okay, so what we have here is control wire number 2 for the number 2 injector is brown and dark blue K12, and comes down to our injector, which is down here. And right here it tells us that 1, 3, and 5 are on the right cylinder, 2, 4, and 6 are on the left cylinder. Okay, so we'll have to pay attention to that, what they're calling left and right, being it's a transverse engine. Regardless, here's number 2. All right, so if we have injector number 2, you'll see that we have a common wire, brown and white, brown and white, brown and white, brown and white. Now these are all spliced together. And then there's a large splice here, where right by the battery, and there's another splice. Now they follow these two here. What you'll find is one comes over here and feeds the ignition coil. All right, and the other one comes over here and splices off again, goes a few other places. But what we care about is the fact that it's coming from the totally integrated power module, which is called a TIPM, and that's where it's getting its fuse off M19 fuse 30 amps. So what we know is brown and white is our power to the injectors, and the ECM is controlling the ground side. So what we want to do is make sure we have a signal going to number 2 from injector number 2 from the PCM. So we got a back probe, the connector, which has the brown and dark blue, that injector control wire, and we'll back probe it like we always do with a light, because if it'll make this light flicker, then that will work. So I have located the wire here, and that's one nice thing about the back probes I make. I make them out of MIG wire. You can bend them however you want. There wasn't a lot of room to come out from the bottom because the harness comes straight down, so I need to come out and around. I've got it hooked up on remember, this is controlling the ground side, so we need to have it on power. So I put a little 3 amp fuse in here. Now we're going to start it and see if it flashes. If it flashes, we know that it is controlling the ground side. It has the ability to control the ground. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have a wiring problem. That makes it intermittent. Okay, so you can see it's a real faint flash, but it does work. So we'll just disconnect that. This to not cause any troubles. Now, I also saw when I first started up this morning, we had some arcing in here, and based on our coil pack 2, 4, and 6, our problem is number 2. It's this injector here. However, number 4 was sparking. So we're going to need to put plugs and wires in this thing anyways. So we're going to go and change those as well, but I'd like to continue to find this problem before we go too far. I don't think that's not going to give us our code, because it's an open code, not a random misfire code. It's a open circuit code. Okay, so the PCM is monitoring that circuit and says, hey, it's open. So now what we're going to do is take the connector apart, and we're going to ohm each individual injector, and I'll show you exactly why we're taking this apart. In order to ohm each one of these injectors, we have to separate them from each other. So there'll be a connector, or in this case there's two, where we can unplug them, and it makes each one of these individual from each other by the control wire. Now the grounds are all going to be the same, so we're still going to be looking for that brown with a white tracer. I'm sorry, not the ground, the powers. The common is going to be the power on all of them, but our control wire being the grounds, we will ohm in between them. And 13.7, 13.9 I believe is what I'm looking for. So let's get that apart and see. But we got to turn it off and unplug the connectors first. Alright, so these are our injector connectors that go from the main engine harness under the plenum. So what we do is pop these security tabs, these locking tabs out, and then we will disconnect the connector, which I can't seem to do one-handed. Okay, so anyways, we're going to disconnect these. Let me get them apart. Alright, so it's important to know that this is the engine side. Okay, so we're not concerned with that right now because we know we have power going to and control to the one that we back probed in here. So what we're going to do is use this as our guide, knowing that the brown with the white tracer is our common to every one of those injectors. So when we're doing our ohms test, we'll be going to that one for sure on all three of these, and we'll pay attention to what colors we have, which is brown with a purple tracer, or violet they call it, brown with yellow, brown with a light blue, and brown with orange. So there's 4 injectors on this harness, total of 5 wires we're using. Now again, we're going to go to this side. I'll try and set it up, but what we're basically going to do is go ohms from that corner pin right there to each corresponding pin. Alright, so we use our ohm meter, and we're going to set it on ohms. Make sure our leads are in the common and ohms. See that right there? Alright, so we'll test our ohm meter with our leads, see what we got. 0.2, 0.30, that's acceptable. So now what we're going to do is take our common in the corner and go to the first one, which I'll pay attention to these and the location. The first one is 13.9, and the second one is 13.9. Then we're going to skip the next one because that's not the injector, and then we're going to go this one, which is right at 13.9 as well, and then this terminal right here. All right, 13.9. So those 4 injectors ohm out the same. So now what we're going to do is disconnect this other connector, which houses the other 2 injectors, the wires for those. So we have to find out where they are. You can see right here it appears to be our brown and white. We have a brown with dark blue, which is one we're looking for, and there should be another brown in here. I'm going to go look at my schematic, see which one it is, but we know it's a third one on the bottom over here. Now I can use this common here because they're all tied together and hit third one on the bottom here. 1, 2, 3. We got 40 ohms of resistance on that one. Make sure we got the right one. 1, 2, 3. Brown with a dark blue. It's the third one on the bottom coming from my right. So if we go on our common, and then we find 1, 2. There's the third one right there. Alright, so we have 43 ohms on that one injector. So that's obviously not acceptable. So we may just have a faulty injector or a rubbed wire from that point in. I'm going to check the schematic and see which other wires I'm looking for. There should be one more injector over here, I believe, because we had one. What do we have here? We had 1 injector, 2 injectors, 3, and 4. So we should have 2 injectors in the other connector. Let me go check my schematic. Alright, so this one right here is the last one, brown and tan. It is the second one on the top from the left. So what we're going to do is drop everything, of course, and get it all tangled up. Use our common, which is still over here. Now that I've forgotten which one it is. Oh, second one. It's the second one on the top row, and our common. And that's 14. So that one's acceptable, 13.9. So she's right there. So the only one that seems to be an issue is number 2, which is third one over, this brown and dark blue. Can you see that right there? This one right here, brown and dark blue. That's the one we're looking for. So now we're going to use, again, that is the 3rd spot over on the bottom from the right. So go to our common here, and 1, 2, 3 on our 3rd one, and yeah, the resistance is climbing as the temperature sink heats. So we may just have a bad injector, or you know, that signal wire could be chafed. But regardless, looks like the intake needs to come off, because that's where we need to go next. So that's what I'm gonna do. Take the intake off. I'll bring you back once we got all this off and we can expose what's under it. Alright, so the intake is off. Next thing we'll do is disconnect all the injectors. We're just going to go ahead and test them all. So we'll take them safeties out, pull all the injector plugs out, and then we'll ohm each individual injector right where it's at. That way we can eliminate any wiring issues as far as resistance is concerned. Okay, got my ohmmeter set up. And now, pull out this one. Let's see if we get. It's so hard to get to that one. So a little tight down there. Start with number 3, I guess. 13.9. Okay, and working my way around the front here. Careful not to bend the tabs. Don't want to bend the terminals inside the injectors. Come on. This is number 4. Now go to number 2. 52.3. Right on number 2. So we definitely need an injector. Now, let's get back up here to number 1. The wiring harness is right there. Makes it very difficult to. There we go. 13.9. So, since the other ones are so close, we could probably get away with just putting one injector in it. These injectors are about $75 a piece. So it could be $75 plus the intake, plus plugs and wires, or I could replace all of them and possibly not get as good a quality injector as you get from Chrysler originally. I was wrong in how many miles they put on this. They put 46,000 miles on this. We thought it was 28, but after looking back to the miles again, when we gave it to them, it was 46,000, right? Something like that. 46, 48,000, something like that they put on it. So, indeed, we have one bad injector. So we just need to decide whether we're going to replace all 6 or just the one. The other ones, man, they are so close. You know, they're all right there within the same ohms reading. So we could gamble on it. I don't know how much longer we're going to continue to service this for them, because we're looking at doing something else, like getting ready soon. We're looking to retire this van and possibly find them something else, whether it's our van we have now or something else. So I want to make sure it's reliable, but I don't want to overspend on a vehicle that will be you know, toward the end of its life. So I'll decide on that, which I'm leaning towards just one injector, and we'll go from there. Well, we did not put plugs in this, and it certainly needs them. This is probably the best one. So we're gonna go with one injector. We're gonna get all new plugs, all new wires, and intake gasket set. I think that's all for this trip. So let me get it ordered up. I like to take a blowgun, blow all the crud out before I take the plugs out and after. I got my new plugs. I'll put a little bit of never sees on the threads, being though it's going to the aluminum. I'm using Autolite plugs. Not a big fan of Champion, never have been. I like to match them up to the old stuff just to make sure the electrode sticks out about the same distance and that it seats at the same place, just to make sure they're right. Alright, so here's our new injector. We're going to check it and see how many ohms of resistance we have on it compared to our old ones. Yeah, this will be a treat, I'm sure. Not so bad. Alright, so 12.6 is what it is. So out from the other ones, not the same, but I believe it's going to be close enough. So, and it's not the same temperature as the other ones either. The other ones were warm, so I had it running. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the spark plugs while I'm at it, the spark plug wires. Because it's easier to do this right now with the intake off, as long as I don't let anything get down inside the engine itself, down the intake runners. So I'm just going to take care of that real quick. I've got the front ones in already. I'll also do the back real quick. So this one has a holder, sits on the back, keeps them all away from the exhaust. I want to make sure we put it back into that holder just so. Get all the spark plugs in. I'll throw these wires on, and then we're going to pull the fuel rail out, but I wanted to get all the dirt out from around all of the injectors before we take the rail out. Like to compare them, make sure they're the same. They are. Now I'll get a little bit of lube for the O-rings here. All lubed up, ready to go back in. I want to make sure I face it the right way. Push it up in there without cutting the O-ring. There she goes. Nice. Nice. Now the retainer. This goes in, and that's what holds it in place. Back side. There we go. She's in. I think I'm gonna clean all this up real quick and put some lube on the old O-rings so it goes in easy. Alright, they're in. Alright, now before I forget, plug all of them back in. That will be a stinker if I forget to plug them in. Careful to slide them locks back down. All of them are locked the same. The locks and connectors all fit and look the same. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ohm out these again just to be sure that all of them are still okay. Tuck that wire down in here instead of letting it rust on that, or rest on it, I mean. Okay, yep. Alright, I'm going to ohm them out real quick. Test our meter again. Okay, we're good there. Now, we had this upper left was our common. It's cooled down a little bit. They're all the same. Okay, I got a couple more on here. Two more on this side. Let's see which one it was. This one? Can't see. It's the third one. There it is. Good there. And good there. Okay. So we're good through the harness too. So we are set and ready to put the intake back on. But first, we got to clean up all of this here. Okay, torque down to 100 inch-pounds. Okay, now I'm ready to put the rest of it together, and we're going to change the oil on it, but I don't want to change the oil until I start it. I want to make sure that everything's okay, and it'll thin the oil a little bit before I change it. If I run a little bit, thin it down. That sounds better. I got some brake parts cleaner burning off back here because I was cleaning up the intake. But now I'm going to jack it up and change the oil. These spark plugs were definitely due. This is one of the worst ones. There's like nothing left. I'm surprised that I didn't change these. I would have thought I would have changed them, but then again, I didn't expect them to put 46,000 miles on it, 48, whatever it's been, very, very quickly. So now we're going to jack it up, get the oil changed real quick. Alright, the oil is all changed and topped off the fluids. And we're ready to go for a test drive. Let's see how she goes. Test drive. It is running great. It always has. So I'm pleased with it. We're going to go ahead and take it back to them. I'm still a little, you know, on the fence about replacing only the one injector, but I really honestly believe that we're going to be replacing our van soon. So this one's getting some miles and some age on it. So we may just want to have them sell this one, and we'll give them my wife's van that she has now. And they can upgrade, we'll upgrade, and they can have another vehicle with lower miles than what this one does. I mean, we figured out 46 or 48,000 miles on this thing. I mean, they definitely use it. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This will be the end of this one, unless it has another problem, which let's keep our fingers crossed it doesn't, and catch you on the next one.